Oh, coming back after missing that time. Like, do you guys have to ease him in at all, or is he kind of ready for his normal role?
Yeah, so we're working through that with Denzel. You know, just day to day with practice. It's been good to see him back in working with the group. Really seemed hungry at practice. Had some good reps in coverage. As far as roles, we're kind of working through that day to day and seeing what it looks like. But always wanting to be aware of, how he's feeling and how he's doing. But very thankful that he's coming back.
Those guys seem, pretty confident in their ability to match up pretty well with these receivers. What's your view of that?
Yeah. I think as competitors, you always want to match up against the best guys and see how you fare against them. And I think a lot of that starts with your mentality. It's something that we talked about a lot going into the Cincinnati week. They had a dynamic crew, but we feel like we're good as well. And what was kind of interesting about that is just working through the week, who was going to play, who wasn't. It changed a lot, and so the matchups change almost daily. But I think what really shone through that process is everybody that we thought was getting ready to play knew that we were going to come out with the right mentality and we were going to attack the receivers. And I think that mentality and that confidence, you can see it across the room, and that's something I want in them. We put all this time and effort into it. Like, you want to play against the best and see how you do.
We've gotten to see MJ play a lot with Denzel being out. He's kind of been thrown into the fire. Seems like the moment hasn't been too big for him.
Yeah.
What have you thought?
What stands out with me with MJ, really since the day he's been here, is his willingness to compete and his competitive fire day to day. And I think it rolls into games. I don't think it's something that he turns off. It doesn't turn on and off. And no, it hasn't seemed too big for him. And it was good for him. Going into that game, I talked to him about, I've been around a lot of rookie corners. It's like when you're a rookie corner in this league, they're going to throw the ball at you until you prove that they shouldn't. And it was good to see, I told him before that game against Cincinnati, you need to get them off you. Get them off you. And it was cool in some of those money down situations that him come through and do that. So it was good success for him, something for him to obviously build on. But I really appreciate that competitive fire from MJ that I think you guys see as well.
John Johnson was saying that it seems like it's different Tyreek in Miami, that it's more his show compared to the way it was when he was in the Kansas City offense. How are they using him maybe differently? I know it's a different offense, but how is maybe him being featured more down in Miami compared to what you saw the last couple of years when he was in Kansas City?
Right, I think what really stands out to me with their offense is how they've incorporated him into what they do. So schematically, the Andy Reid offense and what we'll call it the Kyle Shanahan offense are pretty different. But what you've seen from their staff is taking what he does well and morphing it into a role for him with what their scheme. And what I mean by that is, I think in Kansas City everything was very RPO driven, and in the Shanahan offense you see more run action passes, so play actions, but they're doing it in a way that features the things that Tyreek does well. Now, what I think he does well, he's obviously a thorough receiver. He can run at all three levels of the defense, but if you track his explosives from year to year, what he does extremely well is break on short end cuts. So slants, we call them drift routes, which are a little bit deeper, and then the catch and run opportunities off of that. So, which is really you go all the way back to the Shanahan offense. They've been doing that forever, but I don't think I've seen this many in-breaking drift cuts off of play actions that I've seen from this team, and that's kind of the way they're using them.
It's one of those games where, I mean, it seems like you guys have really gotten the communication thing down in the back end, but it's just one of those games where that's going to be so key.
Yeah, that's every week, and it's kind of we spent a good time during the bye week looking at our self-scout, which is unsatisfying in a little bit when you go back and you look at everything back to back. It's frustrating because I think we've left plays out on the field because of that. I think our sense of urgency with our day-to-day process has improved. I think some of our young guys are starting to understand how important that is and how important the communication aspect is from pre and post snap. I think, Mary Kay, something that you see nowadays in the NFL is there's so much motion, and I think on the back end that stresses the defense out, so that you have to make sure that we're all in kind of working together and we're all seeing it the same way. So having that urgency of communication of I can't just be a rogue guy in the defense. I have to make sure that the guy beside me is doing right and the other guy sees it the same way. So it's something that we've really, I think we've done it the whole time, but I think our sense of urgency has improved.
And the motion with Tyreek is like at a whole new level, right? I mean, because of the speed of him in motion, right?
Right, absolutely. And I think, something that I see with this offense that's different from what I've seen in San Francisco is they use that motion a lot more, where it's pre-snap, cross the ball motion, fast motion, where it's like changing the formation on the snap. But then they're also running vertical routes off of it, which really challenges you. And, those motions are stressful on defense because it affects your coverage. It affects, what that final formation is, and they're running vertical routes, and there's vertical stretch to those routes.
Is there any benefit to the fact that you guys have at least, you played Kansas City a couple years in a row with Tyreek, and you've seen that motion? I think that fourth down on the playoff game, that there was a lot of motion on that play. Does it help that you guys have you have guys that have felt that and experienced that a little bit?
Yeah, I think as the unit grows, building those reps collectively helps, So yes, I think experience, because we can talk about it in the room, but when you see it when you see it on the field or you played against somebody, it's different. And it's hard to mimic, because his speeds are so high. Even the route tree that he runs is so much different than what everybody else runs. So trying to mimic that is a little bit difficult. So if you have experience playing with them, I think, that should build to their confidence.
Whether it's the speed of those guys or the motion like you talked about, does that make it more difficult to play a bunch of man against them?
I think different defenses have different stress points to that type of motion. I think, they do a great job they're really trying to pull you apart and attack the seams. It's like, I think if you track throws, the majority of them are going down the hash. So what they're using the motion is to try to pull you out and then try to hit it tight, which I think, speaks to what they're trying to do with the quarterback. They keep it generally pretty simple for them. But those motions, they affect man, they affect zone. It's a lot of different rules, and we try to navigate that. Coach Woods tries to navigate that the best we can to try to make it the ease of the defense for everyone.
I'm sorry.
No.
I know this is the first time you've played against Tua, but going back through the scouting and everything, what is the difference between, beyond just obviously having the skill around him, but the difference between him as a quarterback now compared to even a year ago at this time? Right.
I really think it speaks to the system that he's running, his success. He's protecting the ball. I think he's thrown 3 interceptions. I think he gets the ball out quickly. I think his reads are pretty simple. I think what you see a lot on tape is, we call it quick 5 play action, where he fakes the hand fake and boom, the ball's coming out. So he's not holding it back there, and a lot of the route concepts aren't really, it's not having full field reads. like I said, it's like attacking the middle of the field, primarily with zone, and they do a good job of getting in and out of plays pre-snap off the looks that they're seeing. So, I've definitely seen an improvement in his play, and I think it speaks really to the play caller and the scheme. Guys that are developing the scheme, that they're doing something that putting him in a role that he can manage.
Thrilled with how he played, maybe in the middle of the season.
Say that again.
Grant, I don't think he wasn't thrilled with how he played during a couple games in the middle of the season. Have you seen him bounce back from that and play better over these last few games?
Yeah, I think really the whole group. I think we've showed an improvement the last 2 games. I think we play with a better mentality. You feel our sense of urgency, physicality, really trying to attack success and not worry about too much other stuff. So I think Grant's part of that. I think he's shown it. I think he's being more consistent. I think the things that he's really done well is play on the second level in the run game. I think you can feel his physicality in the game and really playing on those zones. But, I'm looking forward to this next part of the season, hopefully, to see the best of Grant Delpit.
Talk complementary football. A lot of times you talk offense, defense, special teams, but within the defense, complementary football with the way the defensive line, especially Miles and Jadavian, the pressure they're getting. How does that complement the way they've played the last couple of games? Complement and help the secondary do its job and kind of play together, and why this defense has improved the last couple of years.
That's a really great point. We talk about it's rush and coverage working together. So what I mean by that is the coverage piece helps the front in the fact that if we're disguising pre-snap, it makes the quarterback a little bit unsure. He potentially could hold the ball longer, and then that helps the rush. And then the rush obviously helps us because the faster that they get home, the shorter we have to cover. So, it all plays together. And I think that, that team defense aspect of it is something that we've really pushed here ever since I've been here, and it's something that our guys have bought into. But, we're all tied in together. And the more productive we are on the first level, the better we are on the third level.
From a coaching standpoint, is it like going up against Coach McDaniel? Is it like an intense chess match where you have to figure out cerebrally what he's planning to do with routes and adjustments and all that?
Yeah, I think so. I think what really stands out to me is I think he is a independent thinker, and I can see that on the film. What I mean by that is I think in the NFL, a lot of times you'll see copycat concepts. Like if you've given up a play, you might see it again. And teams may or may not know the ins and outs of why they're doing that, but you just see it again. I think with him, I think he really studies who you are, what your rules are, and then really tries to expose them. And I think he does. He's done a good job of that. I've coached against him, all the way back in 2013 when he was in Washington, to when they were in Atlanta, to San Francisco, and I think that's something that's a thread that's been a part of their offense all the way since through that. Is I think they're very purposeful play callers. Like everything is for a purpose. They're not just running plays.